All right, welcome to the Shadow of the Script podcast. This is the college football episode edition, week 2. I'm joined here with the medical guy. Welcome back to the show. And we've got a lot to talk about, obviously. It turns out, the slate from the weekend was kind of like, we can go out and, do things with the girlfriend sort of thing and, unranked opponents and FCS garbage game. But it turned out to be a pretty exciting and interesting college football week. But before we get started, if you're not a subscriber, make sure to follow us at Shadow the Script on YouTube. We're also on at Shadow the Script at TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and you can follow us on all those platforms and visit our website at www.shadowthescript.com, where we debunk the mainstream media. So if you want to escape from the ESPN or Barstool Sports narratives, you can come here and find an authentic, real take, which is what we're going to provide here. So like we did last year, we're going to kind of copy and paste it into this college football episode. We do the two winners and two losers from this previous weekend. So heading into week 3, we've seen, week 0, week 1 and 2. There were some interesting box score timelines in there where you had, Florida and UCF, you had Clemson and Troy, you had LSU struggling against Louisiana Tech. And then some questionable proponents in the SEC where you're like, well, this team, we thought they looked strong, but they showed different. So how do you want to start? Do you want to start with the 2 winners or do you want to start with the 2 losers?
Yeah, I think we can start with 2 winners. 2 winners started off good, start off hot, and then move into the losers, and then, go into some of the other topics we have, which will kind of like flow into each other. But yeah, I think we could do that. Start with 2 winners. So
Let's do that.
let's
I'll
have you
give you the
start off
go-ahead.
first. Nah, first.
Dang it. All right, yeah. Honestly, I think my biggest winner, and I hope I don't steal some of them for you, but one of the games I watched in depth was the Oklahoma and Michigan game. And I have to call Oklahoma a huge winner of the weekend. Obviously, they played a ranked opponent. They were at home, but there were a lot of questions with Oklahoma leading into this season where, last year, a lot like Arkansas, as you're repping the brand today, the SEC schedule for Arkansas and Oklahoma are just an absolute gauntlet. And so even looking ahead for Oklahoma, you see I think every single SEC opponent for the rest of the remainder of their schedule is going to be ranked currently. So you're like, whoa. And there's been questions with Brent Venables. I know they have they brought in John Mateer from Washington State as well as the OC from Washington State. And I told this to a couple of other friends off the record. I said, man, John Mateer, if he continues doing what he's doing and finishes with plus 8 wins, I would say 9-3 for the Oklahoma Sooners, and continues to play well within the Oklahoma Sooners system, that's my Heisman favorite. John Mateer looks exceptional. They are relying on him in the ground game. They're relying on him to make extraordinary plays in the passing game, using his legs, scrambling outside of the pocket. And I just was in awe of what I saw with John Mateer over this past weekend. And on top of that, Michigan, I know they're ranked number 15. I know last year they beat Ohio State. I do think they're a lot like the team last year. I think Bryce Underwood, they look like a team that is ran by an 18-year-old quarterback. And whether you want to negate that from Oklahoma's Sooners win, I don't really think that's fair either. But I don't think Michigan is as phenomenal as advertised. I do think they're a solid team, but it's still a very impressive win. That's my first winner from this past weekend. Here, you throw another winner out, and I'll follow it up with a second one, and we'll just kind of trade off. But any additional comments to the Oklahoma winning against Michigan, in case that was one of your winners?
It wasn't, but that was a fun game to watch. It's like you said, it's 2 interesting teams because like Michigan, had kind of a weird year last year, new quarterback they spent a bunch of money on, and then Oklahoma, who was kind of it was a very down year last year. A new, I guess a newish coach who hasn't been very good at Oklahoma. And then same thing, they get a new quarterback they spend a lot of money on. And so it was a fun game to watch over the weekend of 2 teams that are very similar, very defensive teams, very I guess the goal is to be hard-nosed team. So it was cool watching that. Um, I did think it was, even though it was 24 points were scored, I thought it was an ugly game. It was
Mhm.
definitely more of a slugfest than I
I agree.
expected. But yeah, I agree with you. I will say Bryce Underwood for 18-year-old, lots of money, a lot of pressure. He can play. Um,
Oh, no
and
doubt.
I,
Yeah.
and I think after a year, maybe even half a year, you'll start to see him come around, and they'll probably trust him more than what they're doing right now. But going into my winner, I had about four of them on here, but we're going two. I'm gonna go with Baylor. I don't know if you saw that,
Mm.
but Baylor beat SMU,
Hmm.
number 17 ranked. Um, and they've kind of been kind of the, I don't want to say floor mat, but they've been very disappointing for the, kind of a majority of the Dave Aranda, uh, you know, coaching years in the past few years where, he runs a tight ship. He's very, I guess, military-esque to where everything's very scheduled, very structured, very based, stuff like that. And it seems like it's doing a lot of good things, but just not getting those wins. And it was good to see them win, and it's good to see, their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson, who is kind of a dark horse, I'd say, for Heisman. And he's kind of
Yeah.
started off pretty hot this year. I know it did kind of look like the Baylor of old, where it's like, hey, we're going to throw the ball 50 times for 400 yards. It's kind of what they did. I think they had three receivers over 100 yards. Um, I think two of them had over 8 catches. So it was kind of good to see. And this is kind of Baylor's. They backed up 2 games, 2 games in a row that are tough tests, and they ended up winning this one, and it was just good to see Baylor kind of in the mix again because after this weekend, the Big 12 is kind of like you don't know who's the better
Yeah.
one, who's the best, and who's not good.
I agree. Yeah. And, and on top of that, too, is, Baylor honestly had a strong outing versus Auburn, and Auburn's I don't think they're gonna be a bad team in the SEC. But Baylor at home, they at least competed, and it's
Yeah,
not to say that they're not gonna be able to compete with an Auburn, but I thought it was impressive, and SMU is no slouch either.
yeah,
So my second winner, and I think I found it interesting because Arizona State's head coach had some really funny remarks in the press conference, but Mississippi State going
yeah,
out and beating Arizona State 24-20. And Blake Shapen, I know I believe he's bounced around quite a bit in the college football atmosphere,
yeah,
but, he's kind of showing some strong outings early on. And Mississippi State is not renowned as a powerful SEC team. Ever since ever
yeah.
since Dak
They've been
Prescott
bad.
left Hail State, it's kind of been um, a very downgrading SEC organization. But you know, you got to take your wins where you can get them. And Mississippi State, playing a team like Arizona State, who had Sam Levitt and that were in the college football playoffs last year. It's just one of those matchups where you're like, oh yeah, you're picking spreads with the boys or not. You're like, all right, we're going with Arizona State because they were in the college football playoffs last year and et cetera, et cetera. We're not Mississippi State sucks, but I think it shows, and people will not cite this game when they talk about bowl games. Because when they talk about bowl games, it's all about, oh, the SEC doesn't win bowl games when they play Big 12 teams like this.
Yeah,
Um, in this case, though, it's one of those hidden gems where you're like, well, the SEC is here comes my bias again with the SEC, but these big time conferences, they've got depth like you haven't seen before. Hell, I go back to the Auburn and Baylor game week 1. Auburn is, I think it's going to be like a 6-6 team, but when you look at Mississippi State, they're probably going to be like 4-8,
yeah,
but they go in and beat a top 12 opponent um, in a demonstrative way. So Mississippi State was my second winner, and I really don't know too much additional stuff about the team. I just know that Blake Shapen is running the quarterback room over there, and he's had some 2 strong outings so far this year, and that's a team that we didn't expect to win that came out with a W against at least a prominent Big 12 team. So
yeah. And I think to add on to your take about the Big 12 and SEC is like I think it's kind of a win-win situation for both, right? Because like you said, Mississippi State is kind of a bottom tier SEC team, and has been for a few years now. And however, like you said, looking at SEC, talking about SEC, if Arizona State goes in there and gets a win, well, then it's like, hey, outside of our conference, SEC. And so I think it is kind of a cool little. I think those are good matchups to have because like your Kentuckys, your Mississippi States, your Vanderbilts, your stuff like that are kind of the bottom of the SEC. Like you said, it's kind of cool to see because it shows, just because it's the bottom of the SEC doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right?
Yes.
And I think that kind of slipped up on them, and it's going to be real interesting to see, where Arizona State ends up in the rankings. I haven't looked this week, but they're like you said, their quarterback, who's a returner, probably a Heisman candidate, Heisman favorite, and he was awful this game, or his stats were awful at least, but he was not very good. And so I think you're just right on with that take. But my winners, or I guess my second winner, I mean, I think this one's pretty easy right here. Is South Florida beating Florida.
We had to throw that one.
Yeah, I mean that's just. I mean it's a big win because it's in-state rival. You're not really thought of necessarily highly there in Florida, and you go up against the big school, University of Florida, and you pull out a victory. And it's they didn't have any crazy NIL transfer portal come in that just brought them to a different level. And you have DJ Lagway who's healthy, and you have all these receivers that are healthy and running backs that are healthy, and then that's just a dud from Florida. But that's big time for South Florida, and I think I saw where they were ranked 18th this week, and so that's a pretty big jump. And so we'll see what they do next. I know their conference is kind of a little iffy, but South Florida's starting off the year. Boise State, number 25, whooped them.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Florida, number 13. They didn't whoop them, but they beat them. Next, Miami. So it's if South Florida comes out of this, I would say even if they play Miami close, it's if it's within, honestly, if it's within 2 scores and it's a 35-21 ball game, that still earns some props because you're playing a gauntlet. And so I think that's just a big win for them because now they're sitting 2-0. They beat 2 ranked teams, even though Boise State's not that good this year. But same difference. You beat top of the conference of another conference. Florida was at least ranked. I wouldn't say they're one of the better teams in the SEC, but they got the pieces. So
they were anticipated to be.
Yeah. So I think that's a big win for South Florida.
Yeah, and and in addition to that, if let's say hypothetically South Florida goes into Miami and wins, which some have argued UCF USF and Miami should be a college game day matchup to go in there, and instead of just going these big time SEC geographically local matchups should be more focused on. But let's say USF goes in there and beats Miami and starts season 3-0. I would argue, let's say they go 10-2 the end of the year, 9-3. That's a better resume than what we got with the Boise State last year already.
100%.
Already. And and there were some questions about some of the celebrations after that game, which I thought were pretty funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was they really love that victory.
But if you go with South Florida, they play SC State, Charlotte, North Texas, FAU, Memphis, UTSA, Navy, UAB, Rice. Like you said, if they end up, 10-2, 11-1, that's 2 to 3 big wins at the beginning of the year. Not saying a Memphis or a UTSA isn't ranked as well later on. That could be big time for USF.
Yeah. All right, going into losers. And honestly, I feel like I have an interesting take with these guys, and I know they won the game. And the first one I'm going to pick is Clemson. and Clemson is my loser because obviously they go into the Battle of Death Valley at home week 1 to play LSU, and understandably LSU is a very power-packed SEC team this year, and they got Garrett Nussmeier as a Heisman favorite, but Clemson was in the same boat. Clemson last year had a very impressive year, and this year they were anticipated to do the same, and Cade Klubnik is one of my personal favorites college quarterbacks out there this year. And just a very disappointing offensive performance in week 1, just to follow it up with a very, very disappointing performance against Troy, who is one of those beat up games where, Troy pays Clemson to go play them. And all of a sudden it's a 1-score ball game. And I think Troy had a 2-possession lead into halftime of some sort. And I look at that and I go, what could possibly be the issue with Clemson long term? And and I chalk that up as, because LSU struggled too, but I chalk their struggles up more so with the fact that they had a very physical week 1 game, and that may have played a factor into their week 2 matchup versus Troy. Nevertheless, there's no excuse for Clemson to play Troy and have it extremely close. And so I look at those 2 matchups and forecast it with the rest of their season in the ACC, where you got Miami being a very, very strong candidate to win the ACC. SMU is kind of a high-flying team this year, and Florida State is looking absolutely phenomenal this year with Tommy Castellanos leading that cast. I'm a little bit worried. I think, get the panic, get the sirens ready. I don't know. I think Clemson might be in trouble. We might see an 8-4, 7-5 season, and when they go, what happened to Clemson? They had Cade Klubnik, et cetera. So that was my first loser, and I think it's warranted.
Yeah. And one shout out about that game. Shout out to Trey Taylor, wide receiver for Troy. TJC alum, Apaches, go Apaches. He was actually on the first drive. I think he had like a 30-yard touchdown where he just burnt the corner. And shout out to him. He was here a couple years ago. And if he was 3 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier, we'd be reading about him. He truly is and I mean, I've worked in sports. He truly is one of the fastest people I've ever seen. Definition of a glitch player. Because if you don't get hands on him, you don't catch him. And so it was just cool to see that on the big stage, especially against Clemson. So it's not, it's not like, a team that's not very good or anything. It's Clemson, so it's pretty cool. And he just
#JUCO product.
It is, and he showed out, and I think he has 2 touchdowns this year. I think so. But it's funny because he truly is like 5'6" and like 135 pounds.
Holy smokes!
He's small, but he runs like a true 4.3, 4.29 40. He can move.
Yeah.
So that's big shout out there. But we'll go into my losers. I'm going to go with a different one right now. I'm going to have to go UCLA, man. UCLA is who Nico from Tennessee went to, and in 2 games, they have not been very good. Nico, I know he put up better stats this game, but this is 2 games in a row where, you bring this highly touted recruit in, especially after leaving Tennessee. And just all the stuff in the media and all this and all you hear about. And, it's just disappointing to see. You think someone like that goes and it's going to raise the team up and bring the team up. And UCLA's kind of been the same. They're just not very good. They haven't played just these incredible opponents either. And so I'm just going to have to go with UCLA as my first loser. Yeah, they played UNLV. And it says the score was 30-23. In the first half, it was 20-0. And so it's like, yes, the game was close, but UNLV went on cruise control for 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah. In addition, we covered Nico Amaliva last year quite a bit. And, in the offseason, we covered his NIL deal. The only thing I'll say is I saw some film of Nico, and it was when the score was 23-30, and he throws this crossing route over the middle directly to a linebacker. I mean, the linebacker was sitting there, and probably spying Nico, and just right at his helmet. And I was like, and I say this, and I'm not some Joe Schmo saying that's a bad throw. What I'm saying is for the level of play we expect from Nico, throwing the ball directly at a linebacker that's 5 yards past the line of scrimmage directly in front of your vision at his height behind that pass protection is very, very worrisome. And it's my exact reason of a cautionary tale of leaving Josh Heupel in Tennessee for more money and going to a struggling UCLA school who couldn't win with Eric Bieniemy. So,
and I mean that's two bad losses. I mean, Utah was their first game, and they're good. Like, don't get me wrong, but you got dog walk, 43-10, and then like this game easily could have been the same score, but UNLV decided, they were like, we're gonna take the day off, and I mean made it close. I mean there was a chance for them to tie it, but like to bring in a quarterback like that, you'd expect like the team to then increase performance drastically, and it just hasn't happened, and he hasn't been very good either.
Yes. All right, my second loser is Oklahoma State.
Oh, dude,
Oklahoma State,
awful.
Bro. It's
haven't they won or lost isn't this 14 in a row?
They're 1-1 this season, so I think they broke the streak in week 1. I don't know who the hell they played in week 1, but Oregon just beat them 69-3, and I think the score at halftime.
Yeah, that should count as 2 losses.
Yeah, there was 6 touchdowns from Oregon in the first half, and from what I understand, they had 300 yards more offense than Oklahoma State in the second half, and then they scored, like I mentioned, 6 touchdowns in the first half. Oklahoma State had 5 first downs in the first half.
Jesus.
And ever since I can't remember what season it was. I want to say it was like COVID-ish timing. They were 11-1 playing for the Big 12 championship. And there was a play. They were running back on a 2-point conversion and sprinting towards the sideline. He gets tackled right at the inch-yard line, and they lose. And since that date, they have been an atrocity in the Big 12. And I can't remember if the mullet guy is still there. I want to say he is.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, it might be time to move on.
Well, I mean, and they're kind of like Clemson. They're another team that kind of blames the transfer portal and NIL. It's like, hey, y'all are getting these, y'all are able to spend more money and use the transfer portal, and we're not going to do that. And it's like, buddy, like you have to. Like that just is what it is. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. It just is what it is, and but you're right. I mean, the first game they played this year was against UT Martin, so it's like, yes, they have a win, but
I'm not counting it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
And then you just got belt to ass against Oregon, and I understand I understand getting beat, but 69-3, brother. That's it. When was this field goal kick? Was it a
second quarter?
Oh, okay. When it was 35-0,
yeah.
Let's go look at the scoring plays.
Yeah,
it's 20-0, and then they kicked a field goal. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, that's a loser for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I look at the quarterback stats. I mean, he was 7-19 for 67 yards and 2 picks. And I'm like, I get it. Oregon is a pretty damn good Big Ten team, but their defense has never been just holy smokes. Their defense, besides last year, I guess their pass rush got after it. But
yeah, but you're
some scoring.
You're a Big 12 team, and you're not at the bottom. You're not a new member of it. You're not at the bottom. Like you said, a couple years ago, they were in competition for being a decent team. Getting beat 69-3 is a little what are we doing now?
Yeah,
so
no, it's the ultimate low.
Yeah. And then, Jesus, that's bad. I don't even know how to follow that up with the loser I was going to pick. When you said that, I was like, that's a phenomenal pick. I was like, it's so bad. But if we want to go to my losers, I'll have to go with K-State. Okay, K-State. Kansas State, yeah, that's another one that was supposed to be, college football playoff contention. Avery
Yeah.
Johnson is supposed to be a Heisman candidate, right? And they go out and they lose in Dublin. And then I don't know if you watched last week, but they almost lost to North Dakota. And
Yeah.
I know you're thinking like, oh, North Dakota
No.
State. No, North Dakota, the University of North Dakota. Yeah, and they should have lost, but North Dakota's wide receiver dropped it on the sideline when they were getting in field goal range. And then this week, like they lose to Army, West Point. Like, yikes,
Yeah.
yikes,
Yeah,
and
that's bad.
yeah, that's just not good. That's not good at all. And so they like because they were ranked top 15 or whatever coming in, like 8-time quarterback, you know, and they're just like it's just not good. It's not good.
There's
Like
not
that's
much
it.
to say about. I mean,
Yeah,
like Avery Johnson, like you mentioned, prime Heisman type candidate, played a phenomenal year last year. K-State's kind of always that scrappy team that's right beneath the 1 and 2 spot in the Big 12.
yeah,
And you see him on your schedule, you're like, crap. Like, we got to play K-State this week, and we just played this out of conference opponent or this tough Big 12 opponent. Now we got to go follow it up with 6-3 Kansas State.
yeah.
Like,
And the thing is, their schedule doesn't get any easier. It's all Big 12 after this, so it's
Mm.
like it's gonna be tough.
you got to wonder what happens to these teams over a year.
Yeah, I don't
And
know. I don't know because
yeah,
like they like I just don't. I mean, I think is Avery Johnson. Is he a junior this year? Yeah. So is his third year to play? There's no like sophomore regression. Like he just hasn't been very good, and
Mm.
he had to do literally everything to beat North Dakota. Like he had to turn into Cam Newton to beat North Dakota. I don't know if you watched
Yeah.
that game, but it was not like, oh, we're just kind of doing whatever. Like no, he had to sit here and be like, all right, I gotta win this because if not, we're gonna lose. So
Re-emphasis on North Dakota University.
yeah. So that
Shout out North
was
Carolina, North Dakota.
yeah. I mean, great program, But like
Yeah.
Kansas State, like come on. And then some of
Yeah.
my honorable mention winners, I had Illinois, and I had Mississippi State, and then honorable mention loser, I had obviously Arizona State, Florida, Stanford, and University of North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good picks. I think my honorable mention winners would be like Iowa State, going in and winning the Iowa Bowl, if you want to call it that. I've kind of figured that would be an end of the year sort of
Yeah.
game, but and it was exactly how you expect it to be, 16-13. And then I want to say Texas Tech because they're continuing to put up 60+ points a game, and they're that's kind of as advertised for Texas Tech. But I'm excited to see what they do in the Big 12 competition.
Yeah, saying this is
big
supposed to
NIL
be,
team.
yeah, and it's supposed to be the year. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be the year, so we'll see if they. And right now they kind of have it in front of them with these other teams losing. So
Yeah,
we'll
and so
see.
I guess to wrap up this last segment here, I would say we want to pick at least kind of one highlight from so far this season, whether it be how Florida State is looking, with Tommy Castellanos, a Heisman dark horse candidate, something that would I guess shatter the script for the college football season so far that we did not expect or that we're excited to continue to see. I look at the slate and I see, Austin Simmons going into Kentucky and, they're winning 30-23, and Austin Simmons last year with Ole Miss had some strong, very short outings when Jackson Dart came out, and what the potential for Ole Miss could be. We've seen A&M's defense start to struggle, but when you talk about those sorts of things, and you can talk about your own team too, like Arkansas. Taron Green with I believe that's how you say his name, first name.
Yeah,
Talon.
Yeah.
Talon Green. What has kind of poked out to you in the first 2 weeks of the college football season?
And I think I mentioned it last week. Like, there's been a lot of bad quarterback play, and especially a lot of bad quarterback play from like people you expected, like you said, Austin Simmons. What's the kid from Alabama? He's expected to be
Ty
pretty good.
Simpson.
Yeah, Ty Simpson. Mateer, even though he's done enough, like it kind of wasn't like your generic quarterback play. Lenore Sellers, Avery Johnson, uh, Kelvin Jennings from SMU.
SMU? Yeah.
Yeah, like you have a lot of these guys that you like expected to come out and just light it up, and it's like really hasn't been there. I will say the one team who I think made the right decision on quarterback, and everybody gave them shit for it, was Tennessee going and getting Joey Aguilar from App State. I think he was
I
at
love
App
that.
State and went somewhere else, but like
UCLA.
he's at UCLA. So yeah, him and Nico switched,
Yeah,
right? And
they
so
switched.
going there and getting him, and everybody was just like, dogging on Tennessee, and Heupel. And so far, he's looked phenomenal. Now, yes, they haven't played the craziest of opponents, but like he's looked good. That offense has looked good. You found someone that could, throw it down the ball. He may be a little bit more of a scrappier football player or a quarterback, but that's one that I think people have kind of missed on and kind of got a lot of flack for it going into the year. And then, someone I talked about earlier, Baylor. I'm really interested to see what they do because, we're kind of getting long in the tooth with that coach. And so it's like, hey, this got to be a make or break year. And, to put up the numbers they put up, and especially with the offense, to me, it's like, hey, if you're not going to go out and win 13 games a year, put some numbers up. Because at some point, like, and it sucks to think this way, but this is just how college football and sports are. If you lose, 10-7, it's the end of the world. But if you lose 56-54, it's like, hey, that offense though.
Yeah. Hey, looking flashy out there, huh?
Yeah, hey, we got some athletes.
Fireworks.
We got some speed. We're creative minds, and it's like, okay,
that's just Big 12 football. Like,
yeah, exactly. And so that's probably a couple of the other things I've seen, and then I think that's probably kind of it. It's just like the quarterback play has been just iffy. Oh, another one. I can't believe I missed these two, but like Arch Manning and like you mentioned, Cade Klubnik, like those are two. Now, okay, with a grain of salt about Arch Manning, okay, obviously I don't. All of us don't understand why. Like, hey, he's going to be the next big thing when like he played 3 games last year against nobodies, and he wasn't very good. And then like come out and see him do this, and it's like, well, I mean, he's still pretty young, and so I'm not too down on him. I think the media is kind of shit on him because they've kind of put him at this pedestal.
There's a shot of the script take. Yeah, there we go.
Because they put him on this pedestal that, like, obviously because of his last name and his parents and his uncles and everything, but that he's going to come out and, like, rule college football. And it's like, people don't realize, like, Texas's offense is, if you include injuries, I think there's 3 people that are returning from last year, and it's the quarterback, the running back, and the center. Everybody else, even if they're coming back, they're new. They're green. And so it's like, I mean, you see the 2 receivers that left last year through the draft. Those were their receivers. The tight end, Gunnar Helm, left. Jaden Blue left. And then the other 2 running backs, I mean, we all heard about A&M and UT last year, how I feel like every running back they had tore their ACL before the season started. And so, like, everybody's new there. So it really is just interesting to see how, like, a lot of these quarterbacks, just haven't played very well this year. Whether they be, talked about like Arch Manning or like a Klubnik who just hasn't been that great.
Yeah. And the Arch Manning one is the one I was going to go into, is in terms of watching him play quarterback. Is I talked about it in the week 1 episode, just, hey, the mechanics look off. Something looks off. Could possibly be a shoulder injury. There's a clip out there where he's grunting while he's throwing. I've praised his path in the college football atmosphere and the NIL structure, and all of it's so brand new, to where with the last name and with the top tier brand that Texas is, it's so unfair for him to go into Ohio State week 1, the defending champs, and play Matt Patricia's defense, watch him struggle and go, oh, he's freaking terrible. and then the next week he's playing good against San Jose State. Granted, there's two different sides of the coins that I want to address, and the first one is, you know, the media hyped it up in San Jose State saying, "Oh, Arch is back," and it's like, well, first off, he never arrived. He has only played, you know, the three, like one SEC team, which is Mississippi State, no disrespect, and then Ohio State. The rest have been non-conference, you know, very low tier FBS schools. And so when you look at it in terms of that, it's like there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen with Arch Manning, and the flip side of that coin is that's okay. It's not an issue. Like, I don't understand the expectations if you have, and you know, God bless his soul. And this is coming from an A&M fan, you know, with the last name on your back that says Manning, and you go out there and you throw quote unquote a dud week 1 against the defending champs in an away game in a very toxic atmosphere in Ohio State. I don't know any other quarterbacks without that last name or with the last name that would perform amicably in that matchup. So I'm cutting him some slack. And not like if he plays bad this year, then no. I think he's going to exponentially grow throughout the season. I still think they're going to be strong in the SEC. And then I'm glad you highlighted the athletes that are on the roster and how it flipped. I mean, it's like Wisner, the center, and Arch Manning. Everybody else is new. So on the defensive side, there's still the same kind of cats, but that's college football. It changes every year. And then the final thing, I want to talk about my own team. And then, like, you know, with Texas A&M, I talked about how they had the potential to be a 10-2 team. And I think what they did last year was pretty special, and they just kind of dropped these 2 games. And one was understandable with South Carolina. The other one with Auburn was not. And then, of course, you drop Notre Dame and Texas. And understandable having a redshirt freshman quarterback in Marcel Reed. There's still a lot of growth there too, but this defense is very concerning for Texas A&M. The defensive line, they've let up some points against some sub-tier opponents in Utah State and UTSA. Very concerning. It's starting to look like, and here we go again. You know, the comments, and there's, of course the Aggie would say this. You know, I've seen it on TikTok and YouTube, whatever, and I appreciate the discourse, but you know, realistically, looking at the team, I see another 8-4 Texas A&M football team.
The fighting 8-4s.
The fighting 8-4 Aggies. Like, and again, I think we got a quarterback, but boy, if we're letting up all these points on the ground, specifically, that's concerning for Texas A&M. So maybe they're young guys and they grow a lot like the Bryce Underwood take we had earlier in this episode. So, but I'm concerned, and I'm willing to own that. So
yeah, and to defend A&M a little bit here, like, I think UTSA is going to be a better team, even though they lost to Texas State, who I think is going to be a decent team this year. You know, UTSA is not bad. Like, they got some good play. They got some good people. But a lot of the points that they've given up are like bust plays. Like at UTSA, I mean, I know I'm nitpicking here by saying this a little bit and kind of contradictory, but like 2 plays were over like 50 yards. And it's like, that's not going to happen that often. And so it's like, you kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like, yes, I think Utah State, I guess, is a different story because y'all were up pretty big early. And then it was kind of close. But like UTSA, it was pretty close, you know, throughout the first half. And then y'all kind of ran away with it. But I think a lot of that is, you know, figuring it out in the beginning of the year. That's where, you know, you're going to see some of your bust plays. And I think that's where it comes into coaching a little bit, is like, and we saw it in like the Texas and Ohio State game. That game was really reserved in every aspect of the play calling. Yeah. And so I think it's kind of different when you're an A&M playing UTSA. Like, hey, more than likely we're going to win, right? So let's try things. Let's move people around. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't. And so I think you kind of get in that aspect of it as well that could, I guess, help A&M. Now, y'all are about to face a gauntlet of a schedule in the next few weeks.
Yes.
Because you face Notre Dame with their running back, Auburn with their defense or their offense, Mississippi State, who apparently can win now, and then Florida. Then you got to play measly little Arkansas, then LSU, Missouri, South Carolina. Y'all got to break with Samford, and then Texas. So y'all,
Yeah.
if
No,
we're
I looked
being,
at that.
if,
That's what made me say the 8-4 take. I was like,
if we're being honest, 8-4 would be something to be proud of coming out of that. If we're just
that's
being
why I
honest,
adjusted the take. At the beginning of the season, I was like, we got a chance.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, ooh.
And I think, honestly, I think y'all match up pretty good against Notre Dame. Like, yes, I know they have the running back. I wasn't impressed with their quarterback. He's a freshman. You know, even though it's in Notre Dame, it's going to be a hostile environment regardless. And so I think y'all kind of match up pretty good there. But then y'all play some dudes. Y'all
Yeah.
play some dudes. Y'all play. Oh God, y'all
Yeah,
play
man.
at Fayetteville, at Baton Rouge, at Mizzou, at Texas. Oof.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, we'll see, because the next week we'll be covering the obviously the Notre Dame and A&M game recap and whatnot. So lots to talk about in the next week as the schedule becomes in conference, as matchups become more important. But this has been a week 2 college football edition of the Shadow the Script podcast. And upcoming next, every Tuesday is college football. Every Thursday is NFL, 30 to 40-minute episodes debunking the mainstream media. So if you're not following us on YouTube, you can follow us at Shadow the Script across all platforms. Doesn't cost you a single cent to subscribe. You can get notifications when our episodes release. Listen to it on the way to work, under an hour, and get things rolling. So if you like this, share with your friends, and we will see you guys in the next college football episode next week. And get ready for the new college football slate as they begin to progress. So, all right, boys. Later.
Whoopee.